So your party finally has everything they need for their adventure, except for the most important thing, and that is where you step in. Yes, you, the GM. And you carry the weight of the world and the story on your shoulders. Right? Alright, Atlas, calm down. This way of thinking is what makes TTRPGs so scary for a lot of people. It's easier to think of one character and one backstory than to plan an entire world, entire setting. Feel like you are the sole responsibility for the story that is about to happen. Remember, this isn't a choose-your-own-adventure book where everything is written out and decided at the start, and then there are just these set few paths that your players get to play. It's a TTRPG. It's collaborative storytelling. You'll hear me say that a lot. So I've got 3 little pieces of advice for someone who wants to GM and wants to release that pressure from themselves, make sure the table has fun, and build a campaign that you know everyone is going to care about, including yourself. First is set the vibe, and that might seem obvious, but it takes a little bit more work and involvement with other players than you might realize. You'd be surprised to find how many times campaigns start and players are not all on the same page with the GM, and their characters in the story just don't quite mix, and then they end up not really meshing with the campaign. If you're playing a campaign that's very inspired by Studio Ghibli and someone else was thinking we're playing a campaign inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean, you're going to have a character that does not really fit in very well with the world, and that's no one's fault. It's just that you didn't set the vibe first. So for your session 0, find your inspirations with the table. Don't be afraid to reference media. Maybe make a mood board. If you like Pinterest, this is a great time to bring out those skills and show off the aesthetics of your world and directly reference, the things that you want to steal. It's okay to do a little bit of stealing. You're playing TTRPGs. You're having fun. If you're publishing it, it might be a little different when you want to make sure not to rip something off too much, which that's a whole other video in itself. But for this, go ahead. You can put, Will Turner in the background of a scene. No one's going to care. In fact, they might be very into that. 2 is get the backstory first and build the world after. So I usually, after I get that vibe set, I set a basic premise for the world. And I do mean basic. This is before you start going down the rabbit holes. This is before you start spiraling about exactly how each political faction is going to work in your world. And this is the point where you send that information to the players and ask them for their backstories. It doesn't have to be a big elaborate backstory, though of course it can be. And I'm sure the players are going to have a lot of questions if they've gotten this vague world setting. And that is where the collaborative storytelling comes in. Because you haven't set these hard and fast rules yet about your world, your players will have a little bit more freedom to put what they really care about into their story. And then you as the GM will understand, okay, these are the kind of things that they want to focus on. These are the kind of plot lines we're probably going to end up going down if all of these backstories come into play in the campaign. This is by far one of my favorite parts of GMing. It's really cool to see how people take whatever vibe inspirations you set in that little session 0 or discussion about the inspirations for your campaign and put it into their own interpretations. This will also keep you from doing one of the saddest things that happens sometime in collaborative storytelling, where you really get excited about this certain rabbit hole, or even not excited, you just think something's important, and you research it, and then it turns out the players don't really care. But this, at least because you get their backstory, because you have these discussions and understand what questions they're going after, what little plot points they want to play out, you know with confidence what it is that they are going to explore in the game. Well, I say with confidence. People will always do some surprising stuff as players, and that's just part of the fun as well. So I can't account for when they take a right instead of a left and all signs were pointing left. Anyway, this is a great stage for players to collaborate with each other too. If one player wants to be part of one political faction and another player comes up with something that kind of feels like it's opposed to that, you can have them discuss this and build a political faction together, and then there you go. They've done that work for you. And that's probably going to provide an interesting story moment that you might not have thought of yourself. This way of world building can feel a little jigsaw puzzly at first. I have a lot of fun with that, but I can see how it could be overwhelming for some people. But because you have set a vibe in the first step, everyone at least is on the same page of what kind of story they're telling and what kind of world they're going to live in, and therefore you should be able to connect their backstories in interesting ways. You can metagame about it as well. This doesn't have to always be a secret connection. In fact, again, the players may like to know that things are being connected because then they can have some control over how it's connected and make some decisions on how that affects the world around them and their own characters. And finally, and this is the hardest one I think for a lot of us to follow, is don't be afraid to improvise. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean that you, the GM, has to improvise. I mean the table gets to improvise. I do like having a little list of NPC names to just kind of pull from what I want, but a lot of times I don't do that. And instead, if a player says, I want to find someone in the tavern and talk to them about the town, You say, okay, I haven't thought of a tavern really for this place. I haven't thought of NPCs yet. So, player, what kind of tavern are you looking for? Are you looking for something fancy? Are you looking to spend money? Do you want a hole-in-the-wall kind of place? Do you want some place that seems kind of violent and smelly? Do you want to fight there? You ask them, can you describe the tavern you find for me? And then there you go. That tavern is there when they turn the corner. It does not have to come from you. And this way you know they're going to like the tavern they go to. They step inside. They want to find out more about this town. All right, they should probably speak to one of the NPCs there. So, what kind of person are you looking for? Are you looking for someone sitting quietly in a corner? Are you looking for the tavern keep who seems to gossip with everyone around? Are you looking for someone who looks like they might have pretty full pockets? What kind of character do you approach? When your character steps into this room and they scan all of the crowd, what are they looking for? Not everything has to be a role. If it keeps the story going, if it's interesting, if it's not like a high-stakes moment, they find that character. They find a quiet, wealthy-looking person who seems a little over their head in this place and looks like they'd be easy to get some information out of. Maybe they still have to roll to persuade, etc., but they can just find them. You know they're going to be invested in that NPC just as they are invested in this tavern. I think I, as a first-time GM, was afraid to do stuff like this because I thought my players wanted to be surprised and awed all the time by anything I threw at them. I thought that giving them any sort of hint of what they might find would make the story boring. But usually, people who play TTRPGs enjoy being creative, and they like telling the story along with the GM. It's also a great way for someone who's a GM to try out new ways of playing because maybe they never would have made a character like that if they hadn't been provided that character by their amazing players. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that being a player is completely easy, carefree, and not at all stressful. It can be really intimidating to be a player, and a lot of players end up being very shy because of that and end up taking a step back from the world. With these 3 steps, this really helps players also feel a bit of confidence and control over the world they're in, and therefore maybe a little bit more brave when it comes to stepping forward, speaking up, and taking action. To sum it up, one of the most important things a GM can remember is this is not your world, and your players are not just players in your world. This is the table's world. Everyone is doing this together, and no one person should have all of the pressure placed on their shoulders. Everyone is going to have more fun and feel more invested in the table if they had a hand in creating it, and the GM is going to be able to breathe a little sigh of relief knowing that it is not their sole responsibility to make an entire narrative, an entire world for their players. And GMs, if getting deep into the weeds of world building is something that you love, please, I am not trying to advise you not to do it, and your table may love to hear those details, but I do encourage letting them get a little bit more control over what happens, because you never know what interesting and strange plot lines they may end up creating because you let go a little bit of that control. If you're thinking of starting a campaign, I'd love to hear about your concepts because I have seen some really amazing ideas from people here. And for all those people out there who want to be GMs but you're a little too scared, I'm going to tell you something that you might not like. It's going to be scary, but you should do it anyway. If you have questions, if there are other topics you want advice on, I actually get the ideas from these videos from my patrons over on the Spare the Crime Patreon. Every month, people can either submit questions themselves or just vote on a poll to decide what I talk about in the next month. Thank you so much to all my Star Watchers who support me on Patreon. It means so much to me and lets me keep doing what I'm doing here.